Hey folks, welcome back to my deep dive into one of the most wildly entertaining superhero flicks out there. I'm your host here, diving straight into the world of Venom from 2018. And let me tell you, if you haven't seen this movie yet, you're missing out on a roller coaster ride that's equal parts thrilling, hilarious, and just downright cool. Picture this: a story that blends high-stakes action with a buddy dynamic that's unlike anything else in the superhero genre. It's got heart, it's got humor, and it's got this larger-than-life presence that sticks with you long after the credits roll. I'm here to walk you through every little detail about this film, from its origins to the tiniest behind-the-scenes tidbits, all while building up why this is a movie you absolutely need to add to your watch list. Trust me, by the end of this, you'll be firing up your streaming service or grabbing that Blu-ray, because Venom isn't just another comic book adaptation. It's a fresh take that stands on its own and delivers pure entertainment. Let's start at the beginning, because understanding where Venom comes from makes the movie even more appreciate-worthy. The character of Venom first slithered into the Marvel Comics universe back in the late 1980s, created by the talented artist Todd McFarlane. He made his debut in the Amazing Spider-Man issue 300 in 1988. But his roots go even further back to earlier appearances as the alien symbiote suit in issue 252 from 1984. What makes Venom so fascinating is that he's not your typical villain or hero. He's this complex anti-hero, a symbiotic alien entity that bonds with a human host, amplifying their strengths while bringing out some darker impulses. The 2018 film draws heavy inspiration from comic arcs like Venom, Lethal Protector from 1993, which was a 6-issue miniseries by David Michelinie and artists Mark Bagley and Ron Lim, and also elements from Planet of the Symbiotes from 1995. These stories explore the symbiote's extraterrestrial origins, its need for a host, and the moral gray areas it introduces. But here's the cool part. The movie carves its own path, making it accessible even if you've never picked up a comic book. It's not bogged down by needing to connect to other universes. It stands tall as the kickoff to Sony's Spider-Man universe, or SSU for short. And get this, the film was released in the 30th anniversary year of Venom's comic debut, which feels like perfect timing to bring this iconic character to the big screen in a way that honors his roots while feeling modern and exciting. Now, why should you watch it? Well, imagine a film that mixes the intensity of a sci-fi thriller with the laugh-out-loud moments of a quirky comedy, all wrapped in stunning visuals and a performance from Tom Hardy that's nothing short of magnetic. Hardy plays Eddie Brock, this down-on-his-luck investigative journalist who's got that everyman charm mixed with a rebellious streak. And then there's Venom itself, the symbiote, which Hardy voices in this deep, gravelly tone that's equal parts menacing and mischievous. Their dynamic is the heart of the movie. It's like an odd couple buddy film where one half is human and the other is, well, not. It's funny, it's tense, and it keeps you on the edge of your seat wondering how they'll navigate their shared existence. But beyond that, the movie tackles themes like identity, power, and what it means to be a hero when you're not exactly heroic. It's got high-octane action sequences that will have your adrenaline pumping, visual effects that make the symbiote feel alive and otherworldly, and a supporting cast that adds layers of drama and wit. If you're a fan of Marvel but want something outside the usual MCU formula, this is it. Edgier, more standalone, and with a tone that blends horror elements with popcorn fun. Plus, it's rated PG-13, so it's got that balance of intensity without going overboard, making it great for a wide audience. Seriously, if you love films that surprise you and leave you grinning, Venom is calling your name. Diving deeper into how this gem came to life, the production history is a saga in itself, full of twists and turns that show just how much passion went into making it happen. Development on a Venom solo film started way back after the character's appearance in Spider-Man 3 from 2007, where he was played by Topher Grace. Sony had big plans for spin-offs, with early scripts floating around as far back as 1997. There was a draft by David S. Goyer that featured Carnage as the villain, and even talks of Dolph Lundgren starring. Then, in 2008, Jacob Estes wrote a version where Topher Grace would reprise as Eddie Brock, again with Carnage involved. By 2009, Paul Wernick and Rhett Reese, the guys behind Deadpool, penned a draft that included a Stan Lee cameo and some wild symbiote jumping scenes. Gary Ross did a rewrite that same year. But the project hit roadblocks with the shifting Spider-Man franchise. In 2010, Sony rebooted with The Amazing Spider-Man, and by 2012 to 2014, there were plans to tie Venom into that series, with writers like Alex Kurtzman involved and directors like Josh Trank in talks. It all fizzled out in 2015 when Sony partnered with Marvel Studios for the MCU Spider-Man films, putting Venom on ice. But persistence paid off. In March 2016, producers Avi Arad and Matt Tolmake revived it as a standalone, with Dante Harper initially writing the script. By May 2017, Tom Hardy was cast, Ruben Fleischer was brought on as director, and Kelly Marcel reworked the screenplay. The film was greenlit to launch Sony's own universe, separate from the MCU, with a budget between $100 and $116 million. Tencent Pictures chipped in, covering about a third of the costs, which helped with its massive success in China later on. The producers aimed for a horror comedy vibe, drawing from directors like John Carpenter and David Cronenberg but adding pop culture flair. And importantly, there was no Spider-Man crossover due to the Sony-Marvel deal, so they leaned into Ultimate Marvel's version of Venom for a story that didn't need the web-slinger. It's inspiring to see how this film overcame so many hurdles to become a reality, proof that great ideas don't die, they just evolve. At the helm is director Ruben Fleischer, known for his work on Zombieland, which brought that perfect mix of action and humor that fits Venom like a glove. Fleischer was chosen for his enthusiasm about exploring duality themes, the human and the alien coexisting. He wanted the film to feel like a comic book come to life, with a tone that's fun yet grounded in real emotions. The screenplay was a collaborative effort. Jeff Pinkner, Scott Rosenberg, and Kelly Marcel handled the final version, with the story credited to Pinkner and Rosenberg. Marcel, in particular, brought a fresh perspective, having worked on films like Saving Mr. Banks. Producers Avi Arad, Matt Tolmake, and Amy Pascal oversaw the whole thing, ensuring it stayed true to the character's essence while making it cinematic. Cinematography was by Matthew Libatique, who captured those moody, atmospheric shots that make San Francisco feel alive and ominous. Editing duo Marianne Brandon and Alan Baumgarten pieced it together, with Brandon coming off Star Wars projects and Baumgarten from American Hustle. They focused on tightening the Eddie-Venom relationship to make it the film's core. The production design by Oliver Scholl created sets that blended everyday realism with sci-fi elements, like the Life Foundation labs that feel cutting-edge yet eerie. Now, let's talk cast, because this ensemble brings so much flavor to the table. Leading the charge is Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock and the voice of Venom. Hardy earned $7 million for the role, and he dove in headfirst, literally. His son, Louis Thomas Hardy, is a huge Venom fan, and that's what convinced Tom to take the part. He wanted to do something his kid could enjoy, even joking about biting people's heads off. Hardy based Eddie's accent on an aw shucks American style, while Venom's voice is this sinister James Brown lounge lizard vibe, modulated and layered with grunts from voice actor Brad Venable. He recorded Venom's lines during pre-production and had them played back through an earpiece on set, which helped him react authentically. Hardy even improvised scenes, like one where Eddie climbs into a lobster tank. It wasn't in the script, but when he saw the tank, he pitched it to Fleischer, and it became one of the film's funniest moments. Hardy trained intensely with boxing, MMA, and jiu-jitsu to embody the physicality, describing the duo as a hybrid body like Ren and Stimpy. It's his commitment that makes the character so compelling. You feel the internal struggle and the bond. Alongside him is Michelle Williams as Anne Wang, Eddie's ex-fiancée and a sharp attorney. Williams added her own touch, like the line, "I love you, but I love myself more," which nods to the Me Too movement and adds empowerment to her role. She briefly hosts a symbiote as She-Venom, an Easter egg that Fleischer kept secret, hoping for future exploration. Riz Ahmed plays Carlton Drake, the ambitious CEO of the Life Foundation, and also hosts the Symbiote Riot. Ahmed brings this moral ambiguity, portraying Drake as a genius inventor trying to save humanity, but with questionable methods. Scott Hayes is Roland Treese, Drake's head of security, adding that tough enforcer vibe. Reed Scott portrays Dan Lewis, Anne's boyfriend and a doctor who helps out. Scott brings warmth and reliability to the character. Then there's Jenny Slate as Dora Skirth, a scientist at the Life Foundation who's got this ethical dilemma shining through. Melora Walters plays Maria, who briefly bonds with a symbiote, and Chris O'Hara is John Jameson, an astronaut with a key role early on. Sam Medina appears as a thug, Peggy Liu as the convenience store owner Mrs. Chen, who became a fan favorite for her deadpan interactions. Michelle Lee is a Malaysian EMT who interacts with Riot briefly. Sope Aluko and Wayne Perret are other scientists. Scott Deckert as Eddie's noisy neighbor, Emilio Rivera as a lobby guard, and Ron Cephas-Jones in an uncredited role as Eddie's boss. Woody Harrelson pops up in the mid-credits as Cletus Cassidy, teasing future carnage without giving anything away. And of course, Stan Lee's cameo as a dog walker is his classic touch, one of his last before passing. Other actors considered included Matt Smith, Pedro Pascal, Matthias Schoenaerts for various roles, and Tatiana Maslany and Lashana Lynch auditioned but didn't land parts. This cast is stacked with talent, each bringing nuance that elevates the film. Behind the camera, the visual effects are a standout, handled by DNEG with over 1,100 shots supervised by Paul Franklin. They drew inspiration from slime molds and jellyfish for the symbiote's design. Venom is 7 feet 7 inches tall, weighs 500 pounds, with a black oily texture and white veins forming a V symbol. Riot is taller, more metallic and reptilian, capable of forming weapons. She-Venom was designed to be both disgusting and sexy. No traditional motion capture for Venom since Hardy's face didn't match, so it was a hybrid of practical effects and CGI, with tentacles mimicking non-Newtonian fluids. The fight scenes merged forms seamlessly, creating epic, fluid battles. Filming kicked off on October 23, 2017 in Atlanta and New York City, with additional shoots from January 16 to 26, 2018, in San Francisco's Russian Hill, North Beach, Chinatown, and Financial District. Hardy wrapped on January 27, 2018, posting about it on Instagram. There was a single-take sequence shot in London for Harrelson's part. Reshoots happened in Los Angeles in June 2018, with Hardy overseeing some. The team used new Sony facilities in Culver City with Dolby Atmos and Avid Pro Tools for sound. One fun fact, Tom Holland filmed a Spider-Man cameo, but it was cut to keep the film independent. The music elevates everything. Composed by Ludwig Göransson, fresh off Black Panther, his score captures the duality, with tense builds and heroic swells. The soundtrack got a boost from Eminem's song Venom, part of his Kamikaze album, teasing lyrics that reference the film. The score album dropped on October 5, 2018, via Sony Classical. Other tracks include No Problem by Pusha T. Marketing built massive hype. The teaser in February 2018 was criticized for not showing Venom, but the August trailer revealed him, sparking debates on symbiote pronunciation. It's Symbiote. San Diego Comic-Con 2018 had a panel with masks and Riot reveals. A tie-in comic prequel came out September 14, 2018. They even framed home media as a romantic comedy, highlighting the Eddie Venom bond. Release-wise, it premiered October 1, 2018 at the Regency Village Theater, hitting theaters October 5 in 4,250 locations, including 726 IMAX screens. International rollout started October 3, with China on November 9, extended due to popularity. Digital release. December 11th, physical December 18th with extras like Venom mode. It streamed on Disney Plus starting May 12, 2023 in the US box office, a smash hit. It grossed $213.5 million domestically, $642.5 million internationally, totaling $856.1 million worldwide, seventh highest of 2018. Opening weekend, $80.3 million domestic, best October ever, $205.5 million global. China alone brought $262 million, with Russia and South Korea strong too. It needed $350 million to break even, but netted $246.9 million profit, thanks to lower costs than similar films. Reception was mixed. Rotten Tomatoes at 31% from critics, 4.5 out of 10 average, calling it chaotic and lacking Spider-Man ties, but praising Hardy's performance and the duo's dynamic. Metacritic, 35 out of 100. Critics like Owen Gleiberman found it unexciting. Ty Burr said it saps life, but Matthew Raza enjoyed it despite flaws. Audiences loved it. Cinema score B+, post-track 80% positive. The Symbrock shipping exploded on Tumblr, with fans loving the queer-coded relationship. Awards include nominations at Los Angeles Online Film Critics for Best Visual Effects, Visual Effects Society for Outstanding Effects Simulations, Taurus World Stunt Awards wins for Best Work with a Vehicle, nominations for others. Golden Trailer Awards nods for Spots, MTV Movie and TV for Best Kiss. This success spawned sequels. Venom, Let There Be Carnage in 2021, directed by Andy Serkis with Hardy and Williams returning, and Venom, The Last Dance in 2024, Kelly Marcel's directorial debut, Hardy co-writing. The trilogy grossed over $1.7 billion, proving Venom's staying power. If you haven't watched it yet, or even if you have and you're wondering what all the fuss is about, stick with me because I'm about to lay out every juicy detail, from the wild production roller coaster to the tiny behind-the-scenes gems that make this film worth your time. As your narrator and guide through cinematic chaos, I'm telling you straight up, this movie is a must-see for anyone who loves action packed with humor, a killer lead performance, and that perfect "what if your worst roommate was an alien parasite with a heart of gold" vibe. It's fun, it's over the top, and it's got layers you might not expect. Let's keep rolling through why you should hit play on this one right now. We've already covered the origins, the cast powerhouse led by Tom Hardy, the visual effects magic, and the massive box office triumph that turned skeptics into believers. But let's zoom in on some of the coolest, lesser-known facts that show just how much love and madness went into making Venom feel so alive. First off, Tom Hardy's commitment was legendary. He didn't just show up, he transformed. His son, Louis Thomas Hardy, who was around 10 at the time, is a huge Venom fan. That's literally what convinced Tom to say yes. He joked in interviews that he wanted to do something his kid could watch, even if it involved biting heads off. Louis even coached his dad on the character because Tom admitted he wasn't super familiar with the comics at first. Talk about family motivation. Hardy went full method. He trained intensely with boxing, MMA, and jiu-jitsu to handle the physical demands, describing the Eddie Venom dynamic as a hybrid body like Ren and Stimpy, chaotic, funny, and oddly endearing. One of the smartest tricks on set? Hardy recorded all of Venom's dialogue during pre-production. Then, during filming, those lines were played back to him through an earpiece. So when Eddie is arguing with the symbiote inside his head, Hardy was genuinely reacting in real time to his own voice as Venom. That's why their banter feels so natural and spontaneous. It's improvised off Hardy's own performance. He even gave Venom this deep, gravelly tone inspired by a mix of influences, like a sinister James Brown lounge lizard vibe, while Eddie's accent has that quirky, everyman New York flavor that weaves in and out. Hardy improvised a ton, too. The famous restaurant scene where Eddie climbs into the lobster tank? That wasn't scripted. Hardy saw the tank, pitched it to director Ruben Fleischer, and they made it happen. To keep it animal-friendly, they shot once with real lobsters, then again with fake plastic ones. The lobster Hardy bites into? It was actually a candy shell-coated marshmallow filled with chocolate syrup. Perfect, since the symbiote craves chocolate for that phenethylamine fix, a nod to the 1995 comic miniseries Venom, The Hunger. Speaking of that restaurant scene, the tank wasn't built to hold a ripped actor like Hardy's weight. But he insisted, "Yeah, you guys got to figure this out, but Eddie's going in the tank." The crew quickly reinforced it, and boom, one of the film's most hilarious moments was born. Another gem. Venom's line about eyes, lungs, pancreas, so many snacks, so little time, comes straight from Amazing Spider-Man number 374. Little comic Easter eggs like that make the movie feel respectful to the source without being slavish. Now let's talk about the production's long, bumpy road, because it's inspiring how this film finally made it to the screen after years of near misses. Back in 1997, David S. Goyer wrote an early script for New Line Cinema, with Carnage as the villain and even talks of Dolph Lundgren starring. That fell apart when Sony got the rights and focused on Spider-Man. Then came Spider-Man 3 in 2007, where Venom appeared as Topher Grace's version. Meanwhile, spin-off ideas kept bubbling. Scripts by Jacob Estes, Paul Wernick, and Rhett Reese, the Deadpool guys, and Gary Ross came and went. There were plans to tie it into the Amazing Spider-Man series, with writers like Alex Kurtzman and directors like Josh Trank considered. But the 2015 Sony Marvel deal shifted everything toward the MCU Spider-Man, shelving Venom again. Persistence won out. Revived in March 2016 by producers Avi Arad and Matt Tolmach, it became the launchpad for Sony's Spider-Man universe. Dante Harper wrote an early draft, then Rosenberg and Pinkner came on for the story, and Kelly Marcel delivered the final screenplay polish in 2017. Ruben Fleischer, fresh off Zombieland's success, brought his knack for blending action and comedy. The film was designed as standalone, no Spider-Man needed, drawing from Venom, Lethal Protector, and Planet of the Symbiotes for that anti-hero redemption arc. Filming kicked off October 23, 2017 in Atlanta and New York, with extra shoots in San Francisco's iconic spots like Russian Hill and Chinatown. Hardy wrapped on January 27, 2018, even posting about it on Instagram. There were reshoots in June 2018 in LA, with Hardy overseeing some. A planned cameo from Tom Holland as Spider-Man was filmed but cut to keep the universes separate. One fun shoot. A single-take sequence in London for Woody Harrelson's mid-credits tease as Cletus Cassidy. Visual effects were a beast, over 1,100 shots by DNEG, supervised by Paul Franklin. They studied slime molds and jellyfish for the symbiote's fluid, living texture. Venom stands 7 feet 7 inches, weighs 500 pounds, with that oily black look and subtle white veins forming a V. Riot is taller, more metallic, and weapon-forming. No full mocap suit for Hardy since his face didn't match. It was a smart hybrid of practical and CGI. The fights feel seamless because of that careful blending. Ludwig Göransson's score nails the duality: tense, heroic, and mischievous. Eminem's Venom track from his Kamikaze album became the perfect hype song, with lyrics teasing the film. Marketing was clever and chaotic. The February 2018 teaser got slammed for not showing Venom and mispronouncing symbiote as symbiote. It's symbiote. They fixed it fast. Later trailers revealed the character, Comic-Con panels had masks and riot teases, and a tie-in comic dropped in September. For home media, they hilariously framed it as a romantic comedy to highlight the Eddie Venom bond. Theatrical release? October 5, 2018, in 4,250 theaters, including massive IMAX. Premiered October 1st at Regency Village. China got it November 9th with extensions due to popularity. It opened huge, $80.3 million domestic, best October ever, $205.5 million global opening. Final tally? $213.5 million US-Canada, $642.5 million international, $856.1 million worldwide, 7th highest of 2018. Budget $100 to $116 million, net profit around $246.9 million. Critics were tough, 31% on Rotten Tomatoes, 35% on Metacritic, calling it messy and chaotic. But audiences loved it. B+ cinema score, 80% positive. Hardy's performance and the duo's chemistry saved the day. The Symbrock shipping exploded online. Fans saw the queer-coded bond, the affection, even that kiss moment. It trended huge on Tumblr. Awards nods, Visual Effects Society for Simulations, Taurus Stunts wins and noms, Best Work with a Vehicle, Golden Trailers, MTV Best Kiss for Hardy and Williams. It launched the SSU, leading to sequels Let There Be Carnage, 2021, and The Last Dance, 2024, grossing over $1.7 billion combined. And get this, about 30 to 40 minutes were cut from the final version, including some of Hardy's favorite dark comedy and puppeteering scenes. Blu-ray has a few deleted bits like a car alarm freakout, symbiotes hate noise, and extended hospital ride. Some fans still hope for a longer cut someday. Hey folks, we're still rolling with this epic deep dive into Venom from 2018. The movie that turned a comic book anti-hero into a box office beast and a cultural phenomenon. If you're just joining us, imagine a film that's part sci-fi horror, part buddy comedy, part high-octane action spectacle, all anchored by Tom Hardy's magnetic, dual performance as Eddie Brock and the symbiote that takes over his life. It's chaotic in the best way, hilarious when you least expect it, and packed with moments that make you cheer for a guy who's basically a walking disaster bonded to an alien with a taste for heads and chocolate. This isn't your standard superhero fare. It's weirder, darker, funnier, and way more entertaining than the critics gave it credit for. So let's keep unpacking every layer, every behind-the-scenes secret, every tiny detail that makes this movie so rewatchable and why you should dive in if you haven't already. Or rewatch it tonight, because trust me, it hits different every time. One of the things that really elevates Venom is how much of its charm comes from Tom Hardy's sheer dedication and creativity on set. We're talking improvisation that became iconic. Take the restaurant scene, the one where Eddie, starving because the symbiote is burning through his calories, freaks out and climbs right into the lobster tank. That wasn't in the original script at all. Hardy spotted the tank during setup, turned to director Ruben Fleischer, and basically said, Eddie needs to go in there. The crew had to scramble because the tank wasn't built to hold a guy as built as Hardy, but they reinforced it fast, shot it once with real lobsters for authenticity, then again with fake plastic ones to keep the animals safe. And the lobster he bites? Not real. It's a prop made from a candy shell-coated marshmallow stuffed with chocolate syrup, tying perfectly into the symbiote's craving for phenethylamine, that chemical found in chocolate and brains from the 1995 comic miniseries Venom. The hunger. Hardy improvised so much of Eddie's quirky, awkward energy and Venom's dark, snarky humor that a lot of the film's funniest beats feel organic because they are. He even described Venom as a tragic clown, a superpower you don't want but end up loving anyway. To make the internal conversations feel real, Hardy recorded all of Venom's dialogue twice during pre-production. Once in a normal voice for reference, then again in that deep, gravelly, menacing tone we all know. On set, those Venom lines played back through an earpiece, so Hardy was genuinely reacting live to himself as the symbiote. That's why the banter feels so alive. It's not post-production magic. It's Hardy performing opposite his own voice in the moment. He experimented with different Venom voices too, high-pitched, low, distorted, playful, aggressive, before landing on the final mix, with some extra grunts and pain sounds from voice actor Brad Venable. Hardy's physical prep was intense. Boxing, MMA, jiu-jitsu to handle the action, and he called the Eddie Venom hybrid body like Ren and Stimpy. Pure chaos and comedy wrapped in one form. His son, Louis Thomas Hardy, a massive Venom fan even as a kid, helped guide him on the character since Tom wasn't deep into the comics initially. Louis basically coached his dad. Dad, this is how Venom acts. That's family love turning into movie gold. Now, let's talk Easter eggs and comic nods, because Venom is loaded with them, paying homage without overwhelming newcomers. The line, eyes, lungs, pancreas, so many snacks, so little time, is lifted straight from Amazing Spider-Man number 374. The Life Foundation and Carlton Drake come from Amazing Spider-Man numbers 298 to 300, right around Venom's early appearances. Anne Wang, Eddie's ex, first showed up in Amazing Spider-Man number 375. Even the yellow symbiote glimpsed in the lab is a subtle nod to other Life Foundation symbiotes like Scream or Agony from the comics. The film draws heavily from Venom. Lethal Protector, the 1993 miniseries where Venom becomes a protector of the innocent in San Francisco, exactly where the movie is set. No white spider on the chest to avoid Spider-Man ties, but the V veins on Venom's face? That's a clever evolution of the comic design. Stan Lee's cameo as a dog walker yelling at Eddie? Classic Stan. And that mid-credits tease with Woody Harrelson as Cletus Cassidy, writing Welcome Eddie in blood and promising carnage? Straight setup for the red symbiote villain from the comics. These little details make fans grin, but the story works perfectly fine without knowing any of it. The visual effects deserve their own spotlight because DNAG delivered over 1,100 shots that make the symbiote feel truly alive. Paul Franklin supervised, drawing from slime molds, jellyfish, and amoebas for that fluid, predatory blob look. Venom towers at 7 feet 7 inches, 500 pounds, with an oily black texture and subtle white veins. They used a hybrid approach. No full mocap suit on Hardy because his face didn't match the creature, so performance capture mixed with CGI tentacles inspired by non-Newtonian fluids. The freak-out mode where Venom vibrates ghostly? That's pure effects wizardry. Riot's design is taller, more metallic and reptilian, sprouting weapons on the fly. The fights blend seamlessly because they layered animation, FX sims for goo, and digital face rigs that make the tongue and eyes pop. Cinematographer Matthew Libatique's moody shots of San Francisco at night make the city feel alive and threatening, while the editing keeps the pace frantic but focused on the Eddie-Venom relationship. The troubled production history adds to the legend. This film was in development hell since the 90s. Scripts by David S. Goyer for an R-rated version with Dolph Lundgren, rewrites by Deadpool's writers, plans to tie into The Amazing Spider-Man, directors like Josh Trank considered. It got shelved when Spider-Man went MCU, revived in 2016 as standalone. Sony rushed it to October 2018, leading to a tight edit and some reported set conflicts. But the passion shows. About 30 to 40 minutes were cut, including some of Hardy's favorite dark comedy and puppeteering sequences where the symbiote makes Eddie do weird things. The Blu-ray has extras like an extended San Quentin scene with Cletus taunting Eddie longer, a car alarm bit, symbiotes hate loud noises, and a hospital ride. Fans still speculate a director's cut could fix some pacing, but what we got is pure, unfiltered fun. Box office-wise, it was a monster. $856.1 million worldwide on a $100 to $116 million budget. $213.5 million domestic, $642.5 million international. Opening weekend, $205.5 million global, biggest October ever. China alone gave $269 million total, Sony's biggest there, Russia $32 million, South Korea $30 million, UK $25 million. It needed $350 million to break even, but netted $246.9 million profit, sixth most profitable of 2018. The international love, especially in China thanks to Tencent's investment, turned it into a phenomenon. Critics were harsh, 31% on Rotten Tomatoes, calling it messy. But audiences? B+ cinema score, 80% positive. The Symbrock fandom exploded. Fans shipping Eddie and Venom as this queer-coded, affectionate duo, topping Tumblr charts. The kiss scene? Iconic. It spawned sequels that grossed over $1.7 billion combined, proving Venom built something special. Hey folks, we're not done yet with this massive love letter to Venom from 2018, the movie that proved you can take a slimy alien parasite, pair it with Tom Hardy's wild energy, and turn it into a billion-dollar phenomenon that fans still obsess over. If you've been following along, you know by now that this isn't just another superhero flick. It's a glorious mess of laughs, action, heart, and tentacles that somehow works because of Hardy's all-in performance and the sheer fun of watching Eddie Brock argue with the voice in his head like the world's most dysfunctional couple. As your narrator, I'm here to keep piling on the details so you can see every angle of why this film deserves your time. Whether you're a comic nerd spotting the nods, a Hardy stan loving the improv, or just someone who wants a wild ride with chocolate cravings and head-biting chaos. Let's keep digging into the trivia, the Easter eggs, the deleted bits, and all the behind-the-scenes magic that makes Venom so rewatchable. One of the coolest things fans love pointing out is how much Hardy brought to the table through pure improvisation. A ton of Eddie's quirky, awkward charm and Venom's savage one-liners weren't locked in the script. They came straight from Hardy riffing on set. He based parts of Eddie's eccentric personality on a wild mix, the neurotic comedy of Woody Allen, the raw intensity of fighter Conor McGregor, and the zany vibe of rapper Redman. That blend gives Eddie this off-kilter, relatable edge that makes you root for him even when he's spiraling. Hardy even experimented with multiple Venom voices during prep, high-pitched, low, distorted, playful, aggressive, before settling on that iconic, gravelly, sinister tone that's part James Brown lounge lizard, part pure menace. He modulated it heavily, with extra grunts and pain sounds from voice actor Brad Venable. And remember, Hardy wasn't just acting opposite air. He pre-recorded all of Venom's dialogue twice, once normal for reference, once in full symbiote mode, and played it back through an earpiece during filming. So when Eddie is yelling at the symbiote in his head, Hardy's reacting live to his own alien voice. That's why the internal banter feels so real and electric. It's genuine back and forth in the moment. The restaurant lobster tank scene? Total Hardy invention. He saw the setup, told Fleischer, Eddie needs to dive in there, and the crew had to reinforce the glass tank on the spot because it wasn't built for a guy Hardy's size. They shot it twice, once with live lobsters for close-ups, then swapped them out to keep the no animals harmed disclaimer intact, and again with plastic fakes. The one Hardy bites? A prop made from a candy shell-coated marshmallow filled with chocolate syrup. Perfect tie-in to the symbiote's love for phenethylamine, the chemical in chocolate and brains from the 1995 comic miniseries Venom, The hunger. Lines like eyes, lungs, pancreas, so many snacks, so little time are pulled directly from Amazing Spider-Man number 374. These little comic Easter eggs are sprinkled everywhere without overwhelming the story. Carlton Drake and the Life Foundation? Straight from Amazing Spider-Man number 298 to 300, right around Venom's debut. Anne Weying comes from Amazing Spider-Man number 375. The yellow symbiote in the lab? A nod to the Life Foundation's other creations like Scream or Agony from the comics. The San Francisco setting echoes Venom, Lethal Protector, where Venom protects the innocent. No white spider on the chest to avoid Spider-Man baggage, but those white V veins on Venom's face? Clever evolution of the classic design. Stan Lee's cameo as a dog walker yelling at Eddie? Always a delight. And that mid-credits with Woody Harrelson as Cletus Cassidy scrawling "Welcome Eddie" in blood and vowing carnage? Teasing the red symbiote villain perfectly. Visual effects from DNAG were insane. Over 1,100 shots under supervisor Paul Franklin. They studied slime molds, jellyfish, and amoeba time-lapse for the symbiote's fluid, predatory blob form before it bonds. Once bonded, it becomes that thick, rubbery exoskeleton. 7 feet 7 inches tall, 500 pounds, smooth, oily black with subtle veins. Tentacles mimic non-Newtonian fluids for that stretchy, gooey realism. The freak-out mode where Venom vibrates like a ghost? Pure FX brilliance. Riot's taller, more metallic and reptilian, sprouting blades and a spiked wrecking ball. The final battle merges them into a symbiotic flesh mass, epic and gross in equal measure. She-Venom's brief appearance? Designed to be both disgusting and sexy, a fun Easter egg Fleischer hoped to explore more. Hybrid practical and CGI. No full mocap suit on Hardy since his face didn't match the creature, but performance capture blended seamlessly. The production was a long haul through development hell. Ideas floated since 1997 with Goyer scripts and Dolph Lundgren talks. Spider-Man 3 in 2007 featured Venom, sparking spin-off dreams that kept getting derailed by franchise reboots and the 2015 Sony Marvel deal. Revived in 2016 as standalone, it rushed to October 2018, leading to a tight edit, reported set tensions, and about 30 to 40 minutes cut, including Hardy's favorite mad puppeteering and dark comedy bits where the symbiote makes Eddie do wild things. Hardy later clarified they didn't advance the main story much, but fans still dream of a longer cut. The Blu-ray extras, over an hour total, include 3 deleted extended scenes. Ride to hospital, Eddie and Venom bickering in a lift with the driver reacting hilariously. Car alarm, Venom emerging in daylight to trash a BMW as a kid watches in awe. And San Quentin extended, longer Cletus taunt, with Eddie telling Venom to stay quiet, plus more mockery calling Eddie chicken. These give more flavor to the duo's dynamic and tease Cletus deeper. Marketing was chaotic genius. The February 2018 teaser got roasted for barely showing Venom and mispronouncing symbiote as symbiote. They fixed it to symbiote fast. Later, trailers dropped the full reveal. Comic-Con had masks and riot teases. A prequel tie-in comic dropped in September. Home media hilariously sold it as a rom-com, leaning into the Eddie-Venom relationship fans shipped as Symbrock. Queer-coded affection, that kiss, dialogue like, "I am Venom and you are mine." It topped Tumblr ships in 2018. The film premiered October 1st, 2018, hit theaters October 5th in massive screens, extended in China due to huge success. Box office, $856.1 million worldwide on $100 to $116 million budget. Biggest October opener ever, massive in China, thanks to Tencent. Critics were split, 31% Rotten Tomatoes, calling it messy, but audiences ate it up. B+ cinema score, 80% positive. Hardy's dual role and the chemistry saved it. It launched the SSU, leading to sequels that kept the momentum. Hey folks, we're diving even deeper into the wild world of Venom from 2018, the film that took an alien symbiote and turned it into one of the most entertaining anti-hero stories on the big screen. If you've been with me through this extended chat about why this movie is an absolute must-watch, you know it's got everything. Tom Hardy's powerhouse dual performance, laugh-out-loud moments mixed with intense action, stunning visuals that make the symbiote feel like a living, breathing entity, and a story that's equal parts chaotic and charming. As your guide through this cinematic adventure, I'm here to keep layering on the details, the improvisation gems, the hidden Easter eggs, the behind-the-scenes battles that almost kept this film from happening, and all the little things that make rewatching it a joy. This isn't just a movie. It's a vibe, a buddy dynamic between a flawed journalist and his inner monster that's so unique. It'll have you rooting for the anti-hero in ways you didn't expect. So if you're on the fence about firing it up, let me convince you. Venom delivers pure escapism with heart, humor, and heart-pounding sequences that stick with you. Let's keep exploring what makes it special. One aspect that fans can't get enough of is how much of the film's magic stems from Tom Hardy's hands-on approach to the role. He didn't just memorize lines, he shaped the character through constant experimentation and collaboration. Hardy drew from eclectic inspirations for Eddie Brock, channeling the neurotic humor of Woody Allen for those anxious, rambling moments, the fierce intensity of MMA fighter Conor McGregor for the physical edge, and the laid-back eccentricity of rapper Redman for that quirky, street-smart flair. This mix makes Eddie feel like a real guy who's in over his head, someone you can relate to even as things get wildly out of control. For Venom's voice, Hardy tested a bunch of variations, high-pitched and manic, low and rumbling, distorted and alien-like, before nailing that gravelly, mischievous tone that's part lounge singer seduction and part predatory growl. He worked closely with sound designers to layer it, adding extra grunts, snarls, and effects from voice actor Brad Venable to give it that otherworldly punch. The pre-recording trick was genius. Hardy laid down all of Venom's dialogue early, twice over, once in a neutral tone for timing and again in full symbiote mode. Then, on set, it played through his earpiece, letting him bounce off his own performance in real time. That's why their arguments feel so spontaneous and alive. It's Hardy improvising reactions to himself, turning the internal conflict into something hilariously tangible. Take the now iconic restaurant scene as a prime example of Hardy's improv genius at work. Picture this. The set is ready, but Hardy spots the lobster tank and immediately pitches to director Ruben Fleischer that Eddie, driven by the symbiote's insatiable hunger, has to climb right in. It wasn't planned, so the crew rushed to reinforce the tank. It wasn't designed to hold a full-grown actor's weight. They filmed it carefully, first with real lobsters for authenticity in the wide shots, then swapping in plastic replicas to ensure no harm came to the creatures, keeping that all-important "no animals were harmed" certification intact. And the lobster Hardy chomps on? A clever prop, a marshmallow coated in a candy shell and filled with chocolate syrup, nodding perfectly to the symbiote's canon craving for phenethylamine, the brain chemical also found in chocolate, as detailed in the 1995 comic miniseries Venom, The Hunger. Moments like this aren't just funny. They highlight the film's blend of gross-out humor and clever comic ties, making it a treat for both casual viewers and die-hard fans. Speaking of comic connections, Venom is packed with subtle nods that reward eagle-eyed watchers without ever feeling like homework. That classic line where Venom lists off eyes, lungs, pancreas, so many snacks, so little time. Pulled verbatim from the Amazing Spider-Man issue 374, adding a layer of authenticity to the symbiote's voracious personality. The Life Foundation and its CEO Carlton Drake draw directly from the Amazing Spider-Man issues 298 through 300, capturing that early Venom-era vibe. Eddie's ex, Anne Wying, makes her comic debut in The Amazing Spider-Man 375, and her brief symbiote hosting in the film is a fun tease of her She-Venom arc without diving too deep. Spot the yellow symbiote in the lab scenes? That's a quiet shout-out to the Life Foundation's experiments creating other symbiotes like Scream, Phage, or Agony in the comics. The choice of San Francisco as the setting echoes the Venom, Lethal Protector miniseries from 1993, where Venom relocates there to start anew as a protector rather than a villain. Design-wise, they skipped the white spider emblem on Venom's chest to steer clear of Spider-Man dependencies, opting instead for those glowing white veins that form a subtle V shape on the face and body, a modern twist on the classic look. Stan Lee's cameo, where he plays a chatty dog walker giving Eddie advice, is one of his final on-screen appearances, adding a poignant touch. And don't overlook the mid-credits scene with Woody Harrelson as Cletus Cassidy, scrawling a bloody message and hinting at future mayhem. It's a direct setup for the comic's infamous Carnage character, building excitement without spoiling a thing. The visual effects team at DNEG pulled off miracles to bring these elements to life, crafting over 1,100 shots under the supervision of Paul Franklin, an Oscar winner from films like Inception. They researched real-world inspirations like slime molds, jellyfish movements, and amoeba time lapses to nail the symbiote's pre-bond blob form, oozy, adaptive, and eerily intelligent. Once bonded, it transforms into that imposing exoskeleton. 7 feet 7 inches of height, 500 pounds of mass, with a sleek, oily black surface rippled by those white veins. The tentacles behave like non-Newtonian fluids, stretching and snapping with realistic physics. That freak-out effect where the symbiote vibrates and phases like a spectral entity? Advanced simulation tech at its finest. Riot, the opposing symbiote, gets a distinct upgrade. Taller, more armored and reptilian, with the ability to morph into blades, spikes, or even a wrecking ball for dynamic fights. The climactic sequences blend the hosts and symbiotes into a swirling mass of tendrils and forms, all achieved through a smart hybrid of practical effects, performance capture, and CGI. Since Hardy's facial structure didn't match the creatures, they avoided a full motion capture suit, instead using digital rigs for the tongue, eyes, and expressions to keep it expressive and terrifying. She-Venom's design strikes a balance between grotesque and alluring, a brief but memorable Easter egg that Fleischer crafted with care, hoping it might spark more stories down the line. Diving into the production saga, it's a testament to Hollywood perseverance. Concepts for a Venom film swirled as early as 1997, with David S. Goyer drafting an R-rated script featuring Carnage, and even Dolph Lundgren eyed for the lead. After Spider-Man 3 in 2007 introduced the character, played by Topher Grace, spin-off ideas heated up but kept stalling amid franchise reboots. Scripts from Jacob Estes, the Deadpool duo Paul Wernick, and Rhett Reese, Gary Ross, and others came and went. Ties to the Amazing Spider-Man series were planned, with writers like Alex Kurtzman and potential directors like Josh Trank in the mix, only to fizzle when Sony struck their Marvel Studios deal in 2015, shifting Spider-Man to the MCU. The project was revived in March 2016 by producers Avi Arad and Matt Tolmash as a standalone venture, launching Sony's Spider-Man universe. Dante Harper penned an initial draft, followed by storywork from Scott Rosenberg and Jeff Pinkner, with Kelly Marcel delivering the final screenplay polish in 2017. Ruben Fleischer, riding high from Zombieland, signed on to direct, drawn to the duality themes and comic book energy. Filming started October 23, 2017 in Atlanta and New York, with key San Francisco shoots in January 2018, capturing neighborhoods like Russian Hill, North Beach, Chinatown, and the financial district for that authentic urban grit. Hardy wrapped principal photography on January 27, 2018, sharing his excitement on Instagram. Reshoots hit Los Angeles in June 2018, with Hardy involved in tweaks. A rumored cameo from Tom Holland as Spider-Man was shot, but ultimately cut to maintain independence. One quirky detail: Woody Harrelson's mid-credits scene was filmed in a single take in London, adding that raw, unpolished edge. Despite the rush, Sony pushed for an October 2018 release. Some material didn't make the cut, with estimates of 30 to 40 minutes trimmed for pacing. Hardy has mentioned his favorite deleted bits involved darker comedy and mad puppeteering, where the symbiote forces Eddie into bizarre actions, though he noted they didn't advance the core story much. The home release includes a few extras: an extended ride-to-hospital sequence where Eddie and Venom bicker in a lift, with the driver freaking out over the chaos, a car alarm bit where Venom emerges in broad daylight to smash a noisy BMW while a wide-eyed kid watches, and a longer San Quentin post-credits with Cletus taunting Eddie more intensely, mocking him as a chicken, and building that sinister rapport. These snippets give extra flavor to the relationships and hint at untapped potential, fueling fan calls for a director's cut someday. On the music front, Ludwig Göransson's score perfectly captures the film's split personality. Tense, brooding undertones for the thriller elements, swelling heroic motifs for the action, and playful cues for the comedy. Coming off Black Panther, Göransson infused it with modern edge. The soundtrack got a massive boost from Eminem's title track Venom, dropped as part of his surprise album Kamikaze, with lyrics that echo the symbiote's possessive bond and even reference biting heads off. The full score album hit shelves on October 5, 2018 via Sony Classical, rounding out the auditory experience. Marketing played it smart and sassy. The first teaser in February 2018 drew flack for teasing without revealing Venom, and botching the symbiote pronunciation as Symbiote, quickly corrected to Symbiote. Subsequent trailers unveiled the creature, sparking buzz. San Diego Comic-Con 2018 featured a panel with Hardy, Fleischer, and Riz Ahmed, plus symbiote masks for fans and a riot reveal. A prequel tie-in comic, Venom, The Birth of Venom, released September 14, 2018, bridging comics and film. For digital and physical releases, they cheekily positioned it as a romantic comedy, emphasizing the Eddie Venom couple dynamic that fans dubbed Symbrock, that affectionate, queer-coded relationship with lines like, "I am Venom and you are mine," the shared kiss moment, and their bickering like an old married pair. It exploded on Tumblr, topping ship lists in 2018 and inspiring fan art, fics, and memes galore. The theatrical rollout was massive, premiering October 1, 2018 at the Regency Village Theater in Los Angeles, then hitting 4,250 North American theaters on October 5th, including 726 IMAX and 3,000 premium large-format screens. International debuts started October 3rd, with China on November 9th, extended multiple times due to overwhelming demand thanks in part to Tencent Pictures co-financing covering about a third of the budget. Digital release came December 11, 2018, followed by 4K UHD, Blu-ray, and DVD on December 18th, loaded with extras like Venom Vision, a featurette on the character's evolution, The Protector on Hardy's role, deleted scenes, and a sneak peek at the mid-credits setup. It landed on Disney Plus in the US on May 12, 2023, expanding its reach. Box office numbers tell the success story, grossing $213.5 million in the US and Canada, $642.5 million internationally, for a worldwide total of $856.1 million, the seventh highest of 2018. Opening weekend shattered records with $80.3 million domestic, best October ever, and $205.5 million global. China contributed a staggering $269 million, Sony's biggest there, Russia $32 million, South Korea $30 million, the UK $25 million, and so on. With a production budget of $100 to $116 million, it needed around $350 million to break even, but delivered a net profit of $246.9 million, ranking as the sixth most profitable release of the year. This triumph silenced doubters and paved the way for the Sony Spider-Man universe. Reception-wise, critics were divided, holding a 31% approval on Rotten Tomatoes, with a 4.5 out of 10 average score from 364 reviews and 35 out of 100 on Metacritic from 46 critics. Some panned it as tonally chaotic or missing Spider-Man connections, like Owen Gleiberman calling it unexciting, or Ty Burr saying it saps the life from you. But others praised Hardy's committed performance and the film's fun energy, with Matthew Rosa noting it works despite flaws. Audiences, though, adored it. A B+ cinema score, 80% positive on PostTrack, and an 81% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. The Symbrock phenomenon took off, with fans celebrating the duo's bond as this unexpectedly tender, possessive partnership that resonated deeply. Awards recognition came in niches. Nominated for Best Visual Effects at the Los Angeles Online Film Critics Society Awards, Outstanding Effects Simulations in a Photoreal Feature at the Visual Effects Society Awards, and wins at the Taurus World Stunt Awards for Best Work with a Vehicle, plus nominations for Hardest Hit, Best High Work, and Best Overall Stunt by a Woman. Golden Trailer Awards nodded to its marketing spots, and MTV Movie and TV Awards nominated Hardy and Michelle Williams for Best Kiss. This all led to a thriving franchise. Venom, Let There Be Carnage in 2021, directed by Andy Serkis with Hardy and Williams returning, and Venom, The Last Dance in 2024, marking Kelly Marcel's directorial debut with Hardy co-writing. The trilogy has grossed over $1.7 billion, cementing Venom's place as a standalone powerhouse. Hey folks, we're keeping the momentum going on this ultimate guide to Venom from 2018, the movie that somehow turned a creepy alien parasite into one of the most quotable, meme-worthy, and surprisingly lovable anti-heroes in modern cinema. If you've stuck with me this far, you already know the drill. Tom Hardy's electric dual performance, The chaotic buddy dynamic between Eddie Brock and his symbiote, the jaw-dropping visual effects, the massive box office win despite mixed reviews, and all the wild behind-the-scenes stories that make this film feel like a labor of love. As your narrator, I'm here to keep feeding you more reasons why this is the kind of movie you need to experience. It's bold, it's funny, it's gross in the best way, and it has heart hidden under all those tentacles. Whether you're prepping to watch it for the first time or the 10th, these extra layers will make it hit even harder. Let's dive into more trivia, more deleted gems, more improv magic, and why the fans just can't let this one go. One of the biggest draws is how much Tom Hardy turned this role into something personal and wildly creative. His son, Louis Thomas Hardy, was obsessed with Venom as a kid, and that's literally what sealed the deal for Tom. He wanted to make something his son could watch, even if it meant biting people's heads off. Louis even gave his dad pointers on how to play the character properly since Tom wasn't a huge comic reader at the time. It's that family spark that adds such a fun, grounded layer to Hardy's commitment. He went all in physically too. 5 weeks of intense training with boxing, MMA, and jiu-jitsu to handle the action scenes, and he described the Eddie Venom fusion as like Ren and Stimpy, pure chaotic comedy in one body. For the voice, Hardy experimented endlessly. High, low, distorted, playful, aggressive, before locking in that deep, gravelly menace mixed with a lounge lizard swagger. He even got voice actor Brad Venable to layer in extra grunts and pain sounds for authenticity. The real genius move? Hardy pre-recorded every single line of Venom's dialogue during prep, twice, once neutral and once full symbiote, and had them fed back to him through an earpiece on set. So when Eddie is arguing with the voice inside his head, Hardy is genuinely reacting live to his own modulated alien voice. That real-time back and forth is why the banter feels so natural, so electric, and so hilarious. It's not post-production trickery. It's Hardy performing opposite himself in the moment, improvising reactions that make the internal struggle pop. And speaking of improvisation, Hardy was a machine on set. The lobster tank scene in the restaurant, where Eddie, starving and freaking out from the symbiote's hunger, climbs right into the tank and chomps a lobster shell and all, that wasn't scripted at all. Hardy spotted the tank during rehearsal, turned to director Ruben Fleischer and said, "Eddie needs to go in there." The crew had to scramble overnight to reinforce the glass because it wasn't built for a ripped actor's weight, but they made it happen. They shot it twice, once with real lobsters for the wide shots, then swapped them out to keep everything animal safe, and again with plastic fakes. The bitten lobster, a prop marshmallow coated in candy shell and stuffed with chocolate syrup, tying perfectly into the symbiote's love for phenethylamine, the chemical in chocolate and brains from the 1995 comic Venom, The Hunger. That scene became one of the film's most iconic moments, pure Hardy magic turning a breakdown into comedy gold. Hardy improvised tons more, too. Little quirks in Eddie's awkward, rambling style, Venom's savage one-liners, even drawing from Woody Allen's neurotic energy, Conor McGregor's intensity, and Redmond's eccentric vibe for Eddie's personality. Much of the dark comedy and mad puppeteering moments where the symbiote makes Eddie do bizarre things came from his on-the-fly ideas. Tom later mentioned there were 30 to 40 minutes of such scenes cut from the final version. Stuff he loved, but that didn't push the main story forward. He clarified they were mostly for fun, not plot essential, but fans still dream about them. The deleted scenes we did get on the Blu-ray and digital release are absolute treats. There's Ride to Hospital, where Eddie and Venom bicker hilariously in a lift on the way to the hospital. The driver overhears the chaos and freaks out, adding extra comedy to their dysfunctional partnership. It even reveals a bit of Eddie's backstory, like how as a kid he'd steal toys from other children just to find them and get praise. Then there's Car Alarm, where Venom emerges in broad daylight to smash up a noisy BMW because symbiotes hate loud sounds. It's so relatable, and a wide-eyed kid named Joey watches in awe as Venom wrecks the car louder than the alarm itself. And the San Quentin extended version of the mid-credits scene stretches out Eddie's interview with Cletus Kasady, with Cletus taunting him more, calling him a chicken, mocking his victim's cannibalism, and refusing to talk unless Eddie comes closer and hands over his pen. Eddie warns Venom to stay quiet inside his head, adding tension and building that sinister vibe. These extras give more flavor to the duo's dynamic and tease future threats without changing the core story. Easter eggs keep popping up everywhere, too. Venom's hungry rant, eyes, lungs, pancreas, so many snacks, so little time, is straight from Amazing Spider-Man number 374. The Life Foundation and Carlton Drake pull from issues 298 to 300. Anne Wang is from number 375. The yellow symbiote in the lab nods to other Life Foundation creations like Scream or Agony. The San Francisco setting mirrors Venom. Lethal Protector, where Venom tries to be a hero. No white spider on the chest to avoid Spider-Man ties, but the white V veins are a slick modern take. Stan Lee's Dog Walker cameo is heartwarming, one of his last. The mid-credits Cletus tease sets up Carnage perfectly. The visual effects from DNEG, over 1,100 shots, were groundbreaking, studying slime molds and jellyfish for the symbiote's oozy pre-Bond form, then turning it into that towering 7 feet 7 inches, 500-pound black mass with non-Newtonian tentacles and ghostly, freak-out vibrations. Riot's reptilian, weapon-spawning design contrasts beautifully. The hybrid practical CGI approach, no full mocap suit on Hardy, made everything feel alive and visceral. This film overcame massive hurdles, decades in development hell since the 90s, multiple scripts, franchise shifts, and became a standalone triumph. $856 million worldwide, record October opening, huge in China thanks to Tencent. Critics were harsh, 31% RT, but audiences loved the B-plus fun, the Symbrock shipping, queer-coded Bond, that kiss, you are mine, and Hardy's all-in energy. Hey folks, we're still deep in the trenches with Venom from 2018, the film that launched an entire universe, defied expectations, and turned a slimy alien into a box office juggernaut that fans can't stop talking about. If you've been riding this long journey with me, you know why this movie is such a blast. Tom Hardy's unhinged, magnetic dual role, the perfect mix of horror-tinged action and buddy comedy chaos, those stunning symbiote effects that make the creature feel alive and hungry, and a story that embraces its weirdness while delivering real heart. As your enthusiastic narrator, I'm here to keep unloading more of the juicy details, the fan-favorite trivia, the improv gold, and the legacy that keeps this film relevant even years later. Whether you're rewatching for the laughs or discovering it fresh, these extra nuggets will make you appreciate just how special this anti-hero adventure really is. Let's push forward, because Venom deserves every bit of this spotlight. One of the most repeated stories that fans love is how Tom Hardy basically turned the set into his personal playground of improvisation. He didn't just follow the script, he elevated it. The lobster tank dive? Pure Hardy. When he saw that massive aquarium in the middle of the restaurant set during rehearsal, he immediately pitched to Ruben Fleischer that Eddie, desperate and symbiote-driven, had to climb in and go full feral. The crew had to overnight reinforce the tank to support Hardy's weight, and they handled the lobsters carefully. Real ones for close-ups, then plastic swaps to keep the no animals harmed promise. The chomped lobster itself was a tasty prop. Marshmallow coated in candy shell with chocolate syrup inside, nodding to the symbiote's canon addiction to phenethylamine, that brain chemical high from chocolate and, well, brains, straight out of the 1995 Venom, The Hunger miniseries. That scene became the film's funniest highlight, and it's all thanks to Hardy's spontaneous genius. Hardy's prep for the voices was equally legendary. He tested multiple Venom tones, high-pitched and manic, low and rumbling, distorted and alien, playful and aggressive, before settling on that iconic, gravelly, sinister lounge lizard growl. He pre-recorded every line of Venom's dialogue twice during pre-production, once in a neutral read for timing and once in full symbiote mode. On set, those recordings played through an earpiece, so Hardy reacted live to himself as the alien. It's why the internal arguments feel so raw and hilarious. It's real-time improv between Tom and Tom. He even drew from eclectic inspirations for Eddie, Woody Allen's neurotic comedy for the anxious rambles, Conor McGregor's fierce intensity for the physicality, and Redmond's zany eccentricity for that quirky edge. His son, Louis Thomas Hardy, a huge Venom fan as a kid, coached him on the character too. Tom took the role partly to make something his son could enjoy, even if it involved biting heads off. That family motivation adds such a cool, personal layer to the performance. The deleted scenes are another treasure trove that fans still geek out over. Hardy once mentioned 30 to 40 minutes of material got cut, including a lot of his favorite mad puppeteering and dark comedy bits where the symbiote forces Eddie into absurd situations. While he later clarified they didn't advance the main plot much, they were pure fun. The Blu-ray extras give us a taste. Ride to Hospital shows Eddie and Venom bickering in a lift, with the driver overhearing the chaos and reacting hilariously, plus a fun flashback to Kid Eddie stealing toys just to find them for praise. Car Alarm has Venom emerging in daylight to trash a noisy BMW because symbiotes hate loud sounds, all while a kid named Joey watches in wide-eyed awe. And the extended San Quentin mid-credits tease stretches the Cletus Kasady interview, with more taunting, Eddie warning Venom to stay quiet inside his head, and Cletus mocking him as a chicken before demanding the pen. These bits deepen the duo's dynamic and build tension without changing the core story, perfect for fans craving more. Easter eggs keep rewarding rewatches. Beyond the big ones like the Life Foundation origins from Amazing Spider-Man number 298 to 300, and from number 375, and the yellow symbiote hinting at scream or agony, there's the San Francisco setting echoing Venom, Lethal Protector's protector arc. No white spider emblem to avoid Spider-Man ties, but those white V-veins are a clever redesign. Stan Lee's dog walker cameo remains a sweet final touch. The mid-credits Cletus tease? Still one of the best villain setups in superhero history. The film's legacy is massive. That $856 million worldwide haul on a $100 to $116 million budget made it the 7th highest grosser of 2018, with a record October opening and huge international love, especially China at $269 million. It launched Sony's Spider-Man universe, which by 2026 has crossed $2 billion total, thanks mostly to the Venom trilogy contributing over $1.7 billion. Even with the sequel's dips, the original success proved standalone anti-heroes could thrive. The Symbrock fandom exploded into a cultural force, with fans shipping the queer-coded possessive bond, lines like "You are mine," the kiss, the bickering like an old couple, topping Tumblr and inspiring endless art and fics. Critics may have been tough, 31% on Rotten Tomatoes, but audiences embraced it with B+ cinema score and 80% positivity. It showed that so bad it's good word of mouth, Hardy's commitment, and pure fun could carry a film far. Even in 2026, with the trilogy wrapped in talks of future symbiote stories like Agent Venom rumors, the original Venom stands as the spark that proved this universe could work. Hey folks, we're powering through this epic, no-holds-barred celebration of Venom from 2018. The movie that kicked off Sony's Spider-Man universe with a bang, turned Tom Hardy into a tentacle-wielding legend, and proved that sometimes the weirdest ideas make the biggest splash. By January 2026, with the full trilogy wrapped up and the SSU having crossed that massive $2 billion worldwide benchmark, mostly thanks to the Venom films pulling in over $1.7 billion of it, the original still stands tall as the spark that made it all possible. Critics might have been rough back in the day, but audiences embraced the chaos, and the legacy keeps growing with fans revisiting it for the laughs, the action, and that unbreakable Eddie Venom bond. As your narrator, I'm here to keep the spotlight on every last detail, from more improv stories to deeper trivia, deleted scene gems, and why this film endures as pure, unfiltered fun. If you haven't watched it lately, trust me, it's the perfect antidote to a boring night. Let's zoom in on one of the most legendary improv moments that fans still quote endlessly, the lobster tank scene. This wasn't some carefully planned beat in the script. It was all Tom Hardy. During rehearsals, the production designer had placed a massive, fancy lobster tank right in the center of the restaurant set just to give the place that upscale vibe. As soon as Hardy saw it, he turned to director Ruben Fleischer and declared, "Well, I'm going in the tank." The crew was stunned. The tank wasn't reinforced for a full-grown actor like Hardy to climb in, and it was stocked with live lobsters. But Hardy insisted, saying Eddie was in full meltdown mode from the symbiote's hunger and fever, so a simple fall or headbang wasn't enough. He needed something extreme. The team scrambled overnight to strengthen the glass, shot the sequence twice, first with real lobsters for authenticity in the wides, then swapping in plastic ones to keep the No Animals Harmed certification clean. And for the bite, no real lobster got chomped. They made a special prop, a marshmallow coated in candy shell and filled with chocolate syrup, delicious for Hardy, a vegetarian, and a perfect nod to the symbiote's canon craving for phenethylamine, that feel-good chemical found in chocolate and brains from the 1995 comic miniseries Venom, The Hunger. The result? One of the film's most hilarious, meme-worthy moments that perfectly captures Eddie's descent into symbiote-fueled madness. Hardy's improv didn't stop there. He infused Eddie with a quirky, eccentric personality drawn from a wild mix. The neurotic, rambling comedy of Woody Allen, the raw, intense physicality of fighter Conor McGregor, and the laid-back, zany eccentricity of rapper Redman. That blend makes Eddie feel like a real, flawed guy who's hilariously out of his depth. For Venom's voice, Hardy went through tons of tests. High-pitched manic, deep rumbling, distorted alien, playful, aggressive, before landing on that gravelly, menacing lounge lizard tone. He even got voice actor Brad Venable to add extra grunts and sounds for depth. The earpiece trick remains one of the coolest production hacks. Hardy pre-recorded all Venom's lines twice, neutral timing and full symbiote mode, then played them back live on set so he could react authentically to the voice in his head. It's why their bickering feels so spontaneous and real. Hardy's son Lewis Thomas. Hardy played a huge role too. He was a massive Venom fan as a kid, and that's what convinced Tom to take the part. Tom wanted to do something his son could watch, even if it involved biting heads off. And Lewis coached him on how to portray the character properly, since Tom wasn't deep into the comics initially. It's that personal touch that makes the performance feel so committed and fun. The deleted scenes are still a hot topic among fans. Hardy originally mentioned around 30 to 40 minutes of material got cut, including a bunch of his favorite mad puppeteering and dark comedy sequences where the symbiote makes Eddie do bizarre, over-the-top things. He later clarified that while they were hilarious and improvised, they mostly added flavor rather than advancing the plot. The Blu-ray extras give us 3 standout ones. Ride to Hospital, where Eddie and Venom argue in a lift on the way to the hospital. The driver freaks out overhearing the chaos, and we get a fun flashback to Kid Eddie stealing toys just to find them for praise. Car Alarm, showing Venom emerging in daylight to smash a noisy BMW, symbiotes hate loud sounds, with a kid named Joey watching in total awe. And the extended San Quentin mid-credits, stretching the Cletus Kasady interview with more taunting, Eddie warning Venom to stay silent inside his head, and Cletus calling him a chicken while demanding the pen. These give extra depth to the relationships and tease future villains without altering the main story. Comic Easter eggs are everywhere, rewarding fans without overwhelming newcomers. The Life Foundation and Carlton Drake come straight from Amazing Spider-Man number 298 to 300. Anne Weying debuts in number 375. The yellow symbiote in the lab nods to the Life Foundation's other creations like Scream, Phage, Agony, or Lasher. The San Francisco setting echoes Venom, Lethal Protector, where Venom relocates to become a protector. No white spider on the chest to keep it separate from Spider-Man, but the white V veins are a slick modern evolution. John Jameson, the astronaut Riot bonds with first, is J. Jonah Jameson's son from the comics. Lines like eyes, lungs, pancreas, so many snacks, so little time are pulled directly from Amazing Spider-Man number 374. Stan Lee's dog walker cameo is a classic, heartwarming touch. And the mid-credits Cletus Kasady tease? Still one of the best villain setups, with his bloody Welcome Eddie message and vow of carnage perfectly hinting at the red symbiote terror. Even in 2026, with the trilogy complete and the SSU hitting that $2 billion mark, driven almost entirely by Venom's success, the other spin-offs struggled, the original film's impact is clear. It grossed $856.1 million worldwide on a modest $100 to $116 million budget, shattered October records with its opening, and exploded internationally, especially China at $269 million. It proved standalone anti-heroes could thrive, launched the Symbrock shipping phenomenon, that queer-coded affectionate duo with the kiss and you are mine possessiveness still trending in fan spaces, and showed that fun, chaotic energy could win over audiences despite the 31% critic score. B+ cinema score and 80% positivity say it all. Hey folks, we're still rolling strong on this ultimate no-rush celebration of Venom from 2018. The movie that shocked everyone by turning a long-gestating comic book anti-hero into a massive hit, a cultural talking point, and the foundation for Sony's Spider-Man universe that, even as of January 2026, keeps sparking discussions about its legacy and what might come next. With the trilogy wrapped up after Venom, The Last Dance in 2024, and the SSU facing some tough calls on future spin-offs after mixed results from projects like Kraven and others, the original Venom stands out more than ever as the bold, fun spark that made it all happen. It grossed over $856 million worldwide, shattered October box office records, and proved that an edgy, standalone symbiote story could thrive without needing Spider-Man on screen. As your narrator, I'm here to keep feeding you the details, the improv brilliance, the behind-the-scenes stories, the Easter eggs that reward multiple watches, and why this film still feels fresh and entertaining years later. If you're thinking about popping it on again, these extra insights will make it even better. One of the standout stories that fans never get tired of hearing is how the iconic lobster tank scene came to be. Pure Tom Hardy improvisation at its finest. In the original script, Eddie was supposed to have a simpler freakout, just bumping his head on the tank or falling to the floor while fleeing Anne in the restaurant, overwhelmed by the symbiote's hunger and fever. But when Hardy walked onto the set and saw that massive, fancy lobster tank positioned right in the middle for atmosphere, he immediately turned to director Ruben Fleischer and said something along the lines of, "Well, if there's a giant lobster tank here, of course, Eddie has to go in it." The crew was caught off guard. The tank wasn't built to hold an actor's weight, and it had live lobsters swimming around for realism. They had to rush overnight reinforcements on the glass, evict the real lobsters to avoid any harm and keep the certification clean, and replace them with plastic dummies for safety. Hardy then climbed in, splashed around, and chomped down on one. Except the bitten lobster was a custom prop, a marshmallow coated in candy shell and filled with chocolate syrup, perfect for a vegetarian actor like Hardy, and a clever tie-in to the symbiote's love for phenethylamine, the brain chemical also in chocolate, as seen in the 1995 comic Venom, The Hunger. That spontaneous addition turned a minor meltdown into one of the film's most hilarious, memorable, and meme-worthy moments. Pure proof of how Hardy's fearless creativity elevated the whole picture. Hardy's improv extended far beyond that scene, too. He infused Eddie's quirky, off-kilter personality with influences from Woody Allen's neurotic rambling, Conor McGregor's intense physical edge, and Redmond's eccentric vibe, creating a character who feels authentically chaotic and relatable. For Venom's voice, Hardy experimented with endless variations, high-pitched mania, deep rumbles, distorted alien tones, before nailing that gravelly, mischievous lounge lizard growl. He worked with voice actor Brad Venable for extra grunts and effects, and the earpiece trick was brilliant. Hardy pre-recorded all Venom's lines twice, once neutral for timing, once full symbiote, then listened to them live on set through an earpiece. This let him react in real time to himself as the alien, making their internal arguments feel spontaneous, hilarious, and genuinely tense. His son, Louis Thomas Hardy, deserves credit too. He was a huge Venom fan as a kid, and that's what pushed Tom to take the role. Tom wanted to create something his son could enjoy, even with the head-biting, and Louis gave pointers on the character since Tom wasn't deeply versed in the comics at first. That personal motivation adds such warmth to the performance. Hardy went all in with weeks of boxing, MMA, and jiu-jitsu training to handle the action, describing the Eddie-Venom hybrid as like Ren and Stimpy for its chaotic comedy. The deleted scenes remain a hot topic. Hardy originally mentioned 30 to 40 minutes of cut material, including lots of his favorite mad puppeteering and dark comedy bits where the symbiote forces Eddie into wild, over-the-top actions. He later clarified that while they were fun and improvised, they mostly added flavor rather than plot advancement. The Blu-ray release includes 3 gems. Ride to Hospital, where Eddie and Venom bicker hilariously in a lift to the hospital. The driver overhears the chaos and freaks out, plus a flashback to Kid Eddie stealing toys for praise. Car Alarm, with Venom emerging in daylight to destroy a noisy BMW. Symbiotes hate loud sounds, watched by an awestruck kid named Joey, and the extended San Quentin mid-credits, stretching the Cletus Kasady interview with more taunting, Eddie warning Venom to stay quiet inside his head, and Cletus mocking him as a chicken while demanding the pen. These extras deepen the duo's dynamic and build villain tension. Fans still wish for more of that lost footage. Easter eggs continue to delight on rewatches. The Life Foundation and Carlton Drake pull from Amazing Spider-Man number 298 to 300, Anne Weighing from number 375, and the yellow symbiote nods to other Life Foundation creations like Scream or Agony. The San Francisco setting mirrors Venom, Lethal Protector's Protector Arc. Lines like eyes, lungs, pancreas, so many snacks, so little time come straight from Amazing Spider-Man number 374. No white spider emblem to stay independent, but the white V veins are a smart redesign. Stan Lee's dog walker cameo is classic, and the Cletus mid-credits tease remains a killer setup for Carnage. Even in 2026, with the SSU's future uncertain after some flops and the trilogy's conclusion, Venom's legacy endures. It launched everything, proved anti-heroes could carry films, and built the Symbrock fandom that celebrated the possessive, affectionate bond, the kiss, you are mine, the bickering like an old couple. Critics were harsh, 31% Rotten Tomatoes, but audiences loved the B-plus fun, and 80% positivity. Picture this, a story that blends sci-fi elements with gritty journalism, all wrapped in a symbiotic relationship that's as chaotic as it is captivating. At its core, Venom follows Eddie Brock, a hard-hitting investigative reporter who's not afraid to ruffle feathers in pursuit of the truth. When his life spirals out of control, he encounters something otherworldly that changes everything. This isn't your typical caped crusader tale. It's raw, it's messy, and it's got a dark edge that sets it apart from the polished superhero universes we're used to. Why should you watch it? Because it's a breath of fresh air in a genre that's often too formulaic. It embraces the weird, the funny, and the ferocious, making you root for a character who's equal parts hero and monster. If you love films that make you laugh one minute and grip your seat the next, this is your jam. Now let's talk about the star power that brings this beast to life. Leading the charge is Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock and the voice of Venom himself. Hardy, known for his intense roles in movies like The Dark Knight Rises, where he played Bane, or Mad Max Fury Road, absolutely owns this part. He brings a vulnerability to Eddie that's relatable, a guy who's down on his luck but fights back with grit. And when he voices Venom, oh man, it's like hearing a gravelly, sarcastic alien with a twisted sense of humor. Hardy's dual performance is a masterclass in acting. He switches seamlessly between the human and the symbiote, making their dynamic feel alive and electric. Critics and fans alike rave about how he elevates the film, turning what could have been a standard comic book adaptation into something personal and intense. If you're a Hardy fan, this is him at his most versatile and fun. Supporting Hardy is a stellar cast that adds layers to the story. Michelle Williams plays Anne Weighing, Eddie's ex-fiancée and a sharp lawyer who's got her own moral compass. Williams, an Oscar-nominated actress from films like Brokeback Mountain and Manchester by the Sea, brings depth and strength to the role, making Anne more than just a love interest, she's a force in her own right. Then there's Riz Ahmed as Carlton Drake, the ambitious CEO of the Life Foundation. Ahmed, who you've seen in Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, and Sound of Metal, where he earned an Oscar nod, portrays Drake with a chilling charisma. He's the kind of antagonist who's driven by big ideas, and Ahmed nails that intellectual menace. Scott Hayes is Roland Treese, a tough security chief who's all about enforcing the rules with brute force. Hayes, from projects like Child of God, adds that gritty edge to the action scenes. Reed Scott steps in as Dan Lewis, a doctor and Anne's new partner, bringing some lighthearted normalcy to the chaos. Scott, known from TV's Veep, injects humor and heart into his character. Jenny Slate plays Dora Skirth, a scientist at the Life Foundation who's got insider knowledge that shakes things up. Slate, famous for her comedic roles in Parks and Recreation and voicing characters in animations like Zootopia, shows her dramatic side here, making Skirth sympathetic and crucial. Other notable faces include Melora Walters as a homeless woman who interacts with Eddie, adding a touch of real-world grit. Woody Harrelson makes a brief but memorable appearance as Cletus Kasady in a post-credits scene that teases future mayhem. Harrelson, the legend from Natural Born Killers and The Hunger Games, is perfect for that unhinged vibe. Michelle Lee is Donna Diego, another Symbiote host, and Peggy Lou plays Mrs. Chen, the convenience store owner who's got some hilarious moments with Eddie. Even smaller roles like Sam Medina as a shady parole officer or Wayne Perret as a lab director fill out the world authentically. Behind the camera, the magic starts with director Ruben Fleischer. Fleischer, who burst onto the scene with the zombie comedy Zombieland in 2009, brings that same blend of humor and horror to Venom. He followed up Zombieland with 30 Minutes or Less and Gangster Squad, showing his knack for action-packed stories with witty dialogue. For Venom, Fleischer wanted to honor the comic book roots while making it accessible and fun. He draws inspiration from 1980s body horror films like The Fly and An American Werewolf in London, infusing the movie with practical effects and CGI that feel visceral. Why watch because of him? Fleischer's direction keeps the pace brisk, the visuals stunning, and the tone balanced. It's scary when it needs to be, but never forgets to make you chuckle. The screenplay comes from a talented trio: Jeff Pinkner, Scott Rosenberg, and Kelly Marcel. Pinkner, who co-wrote The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, handles the superhero elements with flair. Rosenberg, known for Con Air and high fidelity, adds that sharp, banter-filled dialogue. Marcel, who penned 50 Shades of Grey and later Saving Mr. Banks, brings emotional depth to the characters' relationships. The story is credited to Pinkner and Rosenberg, with the screenplay polished by Marcel. They based it on Marvel Comics characters created by David Michelinie and Todd McFarlane. Michelinie wrote key Venom arcs in the 1980s, and McFarlane's art gave the symbiote its iconic, toothy design. This team crafts a narrative that's true to the source, but standalone, so you don't need to know Spider-Man's backstory to jump in. Production-wise, Venom was a big undertaking. It was produced by Avi Arad, Matt Tolmash, and Amy Pascal under Columbia Pictures, in association with Marvel and Tencent Pictures. Arad, a veteran producer behind early Marvel films like Spider-Man and Iron Man, has a passion for bringing comic icons to life. Tolmash worked on the Spider-Man reboots, and Pascal, former Sony Pictures chair, oversaw the Marvel Cinematic Universe partnerships. The film is part of Sony's Spider-Man universe, a separate entity from the MCU, allowing for edgier storytelling without the family-friendly constraints. Development started way back in the 1990s when New Line Cinema optioned the rights, but it bounced around. At one point, David S. Goyer was set to write and direct a version in 1997. By 2007, after Sony reacquired the rights, it was pitched as a spin-off from Spider-Man 3, where Topher Grace played Venom briefly. Things heated up in 2016 when Sony announced a standalone Venom film, hiring Dante Harper to write a script based on the Lethal Protector comic miniseries from 1993, where Venom relocates to San Francisco and battles other symbiotes. Fleischer joined in 2017, and Hardy signed on after being impressed by the director's vision. Filming kicked off in October 2017 under the working title Antidote, wrapping in January 2018. Principal photography happened in Atlanta, Georgia, at Pinewood Atlanta Studios, with additional shoots in San Francisco, capturing iconic spots like the Lombard Street curves and the city's foggy hills to ground the story. New York City stood in for some scenes too. The crew used practical effects for Venom's tendrils and movements, blending them with cutting-edge CGI from Digital Domain, DNEG, and Industrial Light and Magic. The symbiote's design evolved from McFarlane's original, slimy, black, with white veins and that massive, jagged mouth full of teeth. Hardy's motion capture work was key. He performed both sides of conversations, improvising Venom's lines to make their banter feel natural. On the technical side, cinematographer Matthew Libatique, who shot Iron Man and Black Swan, gives the film a sleek, shadowy look with dynamic camera work that amps up the action. Editor Marianne Brandon, from Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and Alan Baumgarten from American Hustle, keep the cuts tight and thrilling. The score is by Ludwig Göransson, the Oscar-winning composer for Black Panther and The Mandalorian. His music mixes electronic beats with orchestral swells, creating a pulsating soundtrack that matches Venom's alien vibe. The theme song Venom by Eminem plays over the credits, adding a hip-hop edge that fits the film's rebellious spirit. It even topped charts in several countries. Budget-wise, Venom cost between $100 and $116 million to make, a solid investment for a character-driven blockbuster. Marketing was massive, with trailers dropping at San Diego Comic-Con in 2018, building hype around Hardy's transformation. The film premiered at the Regency Village Theater in Westwood, Los Angeles on October 1, 2018, before hitting theaters worldwide on October 5th, distributed by Sony Pictures Releasing. It was released in standard formats, IMAX and 3D, running for 112 minutes, perfect for a night in without dragging on. In China, it got a special extended cut with 6 extra minutes, but the core story remains the same. Reception? Venom was a box office smash, grossing over $856 million worldwide, making it one of the highest-grossing films of 2018. It broke records for October openings, pulling in $80.2 million in its domestic debut. Critics gave it mixed reviews, a 30% on Rotten Tomatoes from pros, but audiences loved it, scoring an 81% approval. They praised the humor, the effects, and Hardy's commitment, even if some felt the plot was straightforward. The visual effects earned a nomination at the Visual Effects Society Awards, and the film's success spawned sequels like Venom: Let There Be Carnage in 2021 and Venom: The Last Dance in 2024, expanding the universe with characters like Carnage. But why should you watch Venom right now? Because it's more than just a movie. It's an experience that celebrates the underdog, the misfit, the voice in your head telling you to embrace your wild side. In a world full of interconnected franchises, Venom stands alone, letting its story breathe without needing homework. It's got heart-pounding chases, jaw-dropping transformations, and laugh-out-loud moments that stick with you. Plus, it's a gateway to exploring Marvel's darker corners, the symbiotes, the anti-heroes who blur the line between good and evil. If you're into comics, this pays homage to issues like Amazing Spider-Man number 300, where Venom first appeared in 1988. But it welcomes newcomers too. Let me dive deeper into the comic origins, because understanding the roots makes watching even more rewarding. Venom the symbiote debuted in Secret Wars number 8 in 1984 as a black costume for Spider-Man, but it became the villain we know in Amazing Spider-Man number 298-300, bonding with Eddie Brock, a disgraced journalist, blaming Spider-Man for his woes. Creators like Michelini, McFarlane, and later Mike Zeck shaped its lore, the symbiote's weaknesses to fire and sound waves, its hunger for phenethylamine, found in chocolate and brains, and its offspring like Carnage. The film nods to all this without copying verbatim, focusing on the Lethal Protector arc where Venom protects innocents in San Francisco while fighting the Life Foundation's symbiote experiments: Scream, Phage, Riot, Lasher, and Agony. The Life Foundation itself is pulled from comics, a survivalist group led by Roland Treese, but reimagined with Carlton Drake as the head. Drake is a composite of comic figures, adding modern themes like corporate greed and unethical science. The movie explores bioethics subtly, questioning what happens when ambition overrides humanity, all while keeping the focus on Eddie's personal journey. Production anecdotes add flavor too. Hardy drew from real-life inspirations like Woody Allen's neurotic energy for Eddie and Conor McGregor's bravado for Venom's physicality. He even used his dog's barks and growls to influence the symbiote's voice. Fleischer encouraged improv, leading to iconic lines that weren't in the script. The San Francisco setting isn't random. It's from the comics, symbolizing a fresh start away from New York. Filming there involved closing streets for car chases, using drones for aerial shots, and creating massive sets for the Life Foundation labs. Visual effects were a highlight. Over 500 artists worked on sequences where Venom morphs, fights, and interacts with the environment. They used motion capture suits on Hardy, then layered digital enhancements to make the symbiote look fluid and alive. Sound design by Will Files and Bo Borders amps up the immersion, with Venom's voice echoing in Eddie's head like an internal monologue gone rogue. Thematically, Venom touches on duality: the monster within us all, the struggle for control, and finding strength in unlikely partnerships. It's empowering, showing how flaws can become superpowers. For fans of body horror, it's got that gooey, transformative appeal without going overboard into gore. Rated PG-13 for intense sequences, action, and language. In terms of cultural impact, Venom sparked memes, fan art, and discussions about anti-heroes. Hardy's portrayal influenced how symbiotes are depicted in games like Marvel's Spider-Man 2. It also bridged comics and cinema, proving standalone stories can thrive. If you're wondering about home viewing, it's available on platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime, or Blu-ray with extras like deleted scenes and behind-the-scenes featurettes. The 4K version pops with vibrant colors and sharp details. Hey there, movie lovers! If you've been following along, you already know how pumped I am about Venom from 2018. That wild, chaotic, hilarious, and surprisingly heartfelt ride that turned a comic book villain into one of the most entertaining anti-heroes on screen. Last time, I gave you the big picture, the star power of Tom Hardy, the killer supporting cast, the director's vision, the production backstory, the massive box office win, and why this film just hits different. But we're not done yet. Oh no, we're diving even deeper today because there's so much more to unpack, so many cool behind-the-scenes gems, technical wizardry, and little details that make rewatching it even more fun. Stick with me as your narrator here. I'll keep it spoiler-free, load you up with every fascinating fact, and by the end, you'll be racing to hit play again. This is the kind of movie that rewards attention to detail. And trust me, once you know how it all came together, you'll appreciate it on another level. Let's start by zooming in on Tom Hardy's incredible commitment. Because this guy didn't just show up, he lived in the role. Hardy has shared in interviews how much he improvised on set, turning quirky moments into iconic scenes. For instance, he came up with a lot of Eddie Brock's eccentric offbeat behavior on the fly. Think of those awkward, feverish rants, or the way he interacts with everyday objects in hilariously bizarre ways. Director Ruben Fleischer encouraged this improv, saying it brought real energy and humor to the character. Hardy even developed a clever technique. He recorded all of Venom's lines first, then played them back through an earpiece while filming Eddie's scenes. That way, he could react in real time to the symbiote talking in his head, making their banter feel completely natural and unscripted. It's like he was having actual conversations with himself, and it works so well that you forget it's one actor pulling double duty. And speaking of that duality, Hardy's performance draws from some unexpected inspirations. He based parts of Eddie on the neurotic, fast-talking style of Woody Allen, mixed with the cocky physicality of fighter Conor McGregor, and even threw in some rhythmic flair from rapper Redman. For Venom's voice, he channeled gravelly menace with a twisted sense of humor, making the symbiote sound like a sarcastic best friend who's also a total monster. Fun fact, Hardy's young son, Louis Thomas Hardy, was a huge Venom fan from the comics, and that's partly why Tom took the role. He wanted to do something his kid could watch. Well, mostly. There are some head-biting moments. Louis even gave his dad pointers on how to portray the character authentically. That's the kind of personal touch that makes the performance feel so genuine. Now, let's talk about the visual effects, because this is where Venom really shines and stands out from other superhero movies. The symbiote isn't just CGI slapped on. It's a living, breathing, gooey entity that feels organic and terrifying. Visual effects were handled by top studios like DNEG, led by supervisor Paul Franklin, who worked on films like The Dark Knight, along with contributions from Industrial Light and Magic and others. They blended practical effects with digital wizardry to create that signature black, slimy, tendril-sprouting look. The team drew inspiration from real-world biology, sea creatures for fluid movement, slime molds for that viscous texture, and non-Newtonian fluids, those weird substances that act solid under pressure but flow like liquid otherwise. They used advanced liquid simulations and muscle animation to make Venom's body morph and ripple realistically. Tendrils shoot out with weight and physics, and the surface has this obsidian-like sheen that catches light in creepy, beautiful ways. Hardy wore motion capture suits for key scenes, and artists layered digital enhancements to make the symbiote feel like it was actually merging with his body. The result? Transformations that are visceral and body horror inspired, pulling from classics like The Fly. Gross, intense, but never over-the-top gory. It's PG-13 after all. Fleischer pushed for minimalism in some shots to keep it grounded, so the effects enhance the story rather than overwhelm it. Filming locations add another layer of authenticity. The movie is set in San Francisco, and they captured that foggy, hilly vibe perfectly with on-location shoots in neighborhoods like Russian Hill, North Beach, Chinatown, and the Financial District. Eddie and Anne's apartment? That's at 1151 Montgomery Street on Telegraph Hill, a real spot that gives the early scenes a lived-in, romantic feel. They filmed motorcycle chases and street action there, closing down streets for that chaotic energy. But a huge chunk of production happened in Atlanta, Georgia, thanks to those sweet tax incentives that make it a go-to for big blockbusters. Principal photography kicked off on October 23, 2017, at places like Pinewood Atlanta Studios, now Trilith Studios, and Blackhall Studios. Many San Francisco scenes, like car chases or interior sets, were actually shot in Atlanta, with clever set design and digital extensions fooling the eye. They even turned parts of the Georgia World Congress Center into subterranean tunnels for the Life Foundation facility and an airport stand-in. Additional bits were filmed in New York City for Urban Grit. The whole shoot wrapped in January 2018 after about 3 months, with a second unit hitting San Francisco for those iconic January exteriors. Ruben Fleischer's direction ties it all together beautifully. Coming off zombie comedy Zombieland, he brought that same mix of humor and horror here, but cranked up the scale. He wanted to honor Todd McFarlane's bombastic late 90s Venom art, those jagged teeth, white spider emblem, and massive presence, while making it feel real. Fleischer has said he always dreamed of directing a superhero movie since seeing Tim Burton's Batman as a kid, and Venom was his chance. He fought for practical elements where possible, like real tendrils on set for actors to interact with, then enhance them digitally. The troubled production stories add intrigue too. Development was a long road, starting in the 90s with New Line Cinema, bouncing to Sony, canceled multiple times, revived in 2016. Scripts went through rewrites. Dante Harper started, then Pinkner, Rosenberg, and Marcel polished it. Sony rushed it to October 2018 to capitalize on Halloween vibes, which meant tight deadlines. Some effects weren't fully ready for the first teaser, leading to that infamous "Where's Venom?" backlash. But Hardy publicly debunked rumors it was a last-minute reveal. Despite on-set tensions and a short editing window, the final product came together as this gloriously messy, fun film. Box office-wise, it was unstoppable. Budget: $100 to $116 million. Worldwide gross: $856.1 million, about $213.5 million domestic, $642.5 million international. It smashed October records with an $80.3 million opening weekend in the US, best ever for the month, and $205 million globally in its debut. China loved it. $262 million there alone, including a huge $111 million opening. It became the 7th highest grossing film of 2018, proving audiences craved this darker standalone take. Critics were mixed, 31% on Rotten Tomatoes, citing tonal chaos. But fans? They adored it. 81% audience score, B+ cinema score. People shipped Symbiote, Eddie and Venom's bromance, like crazy on social media. It launched Sony's Spider-Man universe, leading to sequels that built on this foundation. Home media extras are gold, deleted scenes, featurettes on designing Venom, Venom mode commentary, and behind-the-scenes looks at Hardy's improv. It's on streaming platforms, Blu-ray, and even got a Disney Plus run later. So why keep watching Venom? Because it's pure entertainment. A buddy comedy wrapped in sci-fi action, with heart, laughs, and spectacle. It's about finding balance in chaos, embracing your inner monster, and having fun while doing it. Every detail, from Hardy's improv to the gooey VFX, makes it special. Hey there, movie enthusiasts! If you're still with me on this epic deep dive into Venom from 2018, you're in for a treat because we're not slowing down. Last time, we explored Tom Hardy's insane dedication, the mind-blowing visual effects that make the symbiote feel alive, the real-world filming spots that ground the story in San Francisco's misty streets, and how this film conquered the box office despite the odds. But there's always more to uncover in a movie this rich and layered, from the thematic depths that make it resonate on a personal level to the cultural ripple effects it's had over the years, and even some fun trivia that only true fans know. As your enthusiastic narrator, I'm here to keep the excitement rolling, sharing every little nugget without spoiling a single plot twist. Think of this as your ultimate guide to why Venom isn't just a watch-once flick. It's a rewatch staple that gets better with every viewing. So, let's keep the momentum going and explore what makes this film a timeless gem in the superhero genre. First, let's delve into the themes that run through Venom, like those inky black tendrils. They're what elevate it from pure popcorn entertainment to something you can chew on long after the credits roll. At its heart, this movie is all about duality and symbiosis. You've got Eddie Brock, this flawed everyman grappling with failure, loss, and a sense of justice that's as messy as his life. Then enters the symbiote, this alien entity that's primal, hungry, and unfiltered. representing that inner voice we all have, the one that pushes us to act on impulses we usually suppress. Their relationship isn't just host and parasite, it's a partnership that forces both to evolve, highlighting how opposites can complement each other. It's like a twisted buddy cop dynamic, but with deeper undertones about identity and control. Why does this matter? In a world where we're constantly juggling our good and bad sides, think work-life balance or personal demons, Venom mirrors that struggle in a fun, exaggerated way. It says it's okay to embrace your chaos. Sometimes that's where true strength comes from. If you've ever felt like an underdog fighting against the system, this film's message will hit home hard, making you cheer for the anti-hero in all of us. Another big theme is corporate greed versus human ethics, embodied by the Life Foundation and its relentless pursuit of progress at any cost. Without giving anything away, the story critiques how big companies can exploit science for profit, ignoring the human or inhuman consequences. It's timely, especially in our era of biotech advancements and ethical debates around AI or genetic engineering. Director Ruben Fleischer weaves this in subtly, using sleek lab settings and high-stakes experiments to build tension, all while keeping the focus on personal stories. This blend of social commentary with blockbuster action is why Venom feels smarter than your average superhero movie. It entertains while prompting you to think about real-world issues, like the dangers of unchecked ambition. Now, speaking of influences, Venom draws from a treasure trove of cinematic and comic book history that makes it a love letter to genre fans. Ruben Fleischer has cited 1980s horror classics as key inspirations. Think John Carpenter's The Thing for that paranoia of an invading entity, or David Cronenberg's The Fly for the body horror of transformation. You can see it in the symbiote's design, that slow, creeping merge with the host, the way it alters physiology in grotesque yet fascinating ways. But Fleischer balances the scares with humor, pulling from his Zombieland roots to add witty one-liners and absurd situations that lighten the mood. On the comic side, it pays homage to the 1990s Venom era, when the character shifted from pure villain to anti-hero under writers like David Michelinie and artists like Mark Bagley. The Lethal Protector miniseries in particular is a blueprint. Venom as a guardian in San Francisco, clashing with corporate threats and other symbiotes. Even the humor echoes the comic's tongue-in-cheek tone, where Venom's sarcasm shines through. Comparisons to other films? Venom stands out in the crowded superhero landscape by being unapologetically standalone. Unlike the Marvel Cinematic Universe's interconnected epics, this one doesn't require binge-watching 20-plus movies to understand. It's self-contained, like a graphic novel come to life. Fans often liken it to Deadpool for the R-rated edge. Though Venom is PG-13, it pushes boundaries with violence and language, or Joker for its anti-hero focus on a flawed protagonist. But where Deadpool breaks the fourth wall, Venom keeps it immersive, letting the internal dialogue between Eddie and the symbiote drive the comedy. It's also got shades of Upgrade, that 2018 sci-fi thriller with a similar man-machine or man-alien synergy, but Venom amps up the spectacle with bigger set pieces and a broader scope. If you loved The Suicide Squad for its misfit vibes or Guardians of the Galaxy for the oddball team-ups, this will scratch that itch, but with a darker, more monstrous twist. Let's not forget the sound design and music, which are unsung heroes in making Venom so immersive. Composer Ludwig Göransson crafts a score that's as symbiotic as the characters, blending ominous, throbbing synths for the alien elements with driving rock beats for the action. Tracks like the main theme pulse with energy, using low-frequency rumbles to mimic the symbiote's presence, almost like you can feel it vibrating through your speakers. Göransson, fresh off Black Panther at the time, brings that same innovative flair, incorporating electronic distortions that evolve as the story does. Sound editors Will Files and Bo Borders deserve props too. They create Venom's voice with layered effects, echoes, growls, and whispers that make it sound otherworldly yet intimate. The practical sounds, like the squelching of tendrils or the crunch of impacts, add that tactile gross-out factor without crossing into horror territory. And Eminem's end credits track? It's a perfect capper. Aggressive lyrics about inner demons over heavy beats, tying into the film's themes while getting you pumped for more. Trivia time, because who doesn't love those behind-the-scenes Easter eggs? Did you know that Tom Hardy almost didn't take the role? He was hesitant until his son convinced him, and now it's one of his favorites. Or that the symbiote's weakness to sound waves is straight from the comics, but the film visualizes it in explosive, creative ways. Michelle Williams prepared by reading Venom comics to understand Anne's arc, and she pushed for her character to have more agency, turning her into a multifaceted ally. Riz Ahmed drew from real tech moguls like Elon Musk for Carlton Drake's visionary yet ruthless persona, adding that layer of contemporary relevance. During filming, the crew used lobster tanks, yes, actual tanks with lobsters, for a memorable scene, blending practical props with CGI for authenticity. And Woody Harrelson's cameo? It was shot in a single day, but it set up huge things for the sequels. Even the convenience store scenes with Peggy Lou's Mrs. Chen were improvised, leading to some of the film's funniest bits. Pop culture impact? Venom exploded into memes almost immediately. From "We are Venom" declarations to fan art of the symbiote in everyday scenarios. It boosted interest in Marvel's symbiote lore, leading to more comics, games like Marvel's Midnight Suns featuring Venom, and even crossovers in Fortnite. The film's success proved anti-heroes could carry franchises, influencing projects like Morbius, though with mixed results, and Kraven the Hunter. In fashion, that black and white aesthetic inspired merchandise, hoodies with jagged teeth designs, sneakers mimicking the symbiote's texture. Collectibles flew off shelves, Funko Pops of Eddie and Venom, high-end statues from Sideshow Collectibles. It's even sparked academic discussions on body horror in modern cinema. For fans wanting to dive deeper, check out the comics. Start with Venom Lethal Protector for the direct inspiration or Amazing Spider-Man number 300 for the origin. Pair it with a rewatch of Spider-Man 3 to see the earlier, less beloved take on Venom. And if you're into podcasts, episodes on How Did This Get Made or Blank Check dissect its quirks hilariously.